This is Common Sense Generation. Common Sense Generation. Hi guys, I'm Kądzielska-Koper. You're watching Common Sense Generation. And today we're going to talk about Polish presidency in European Union. With me is an absolute expert in this field, Professor Artur Nowak-Far, economist, lawyer, and academic teacher. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Professor, we're looking at a perspective of the future of European Union, but also future of Poland, looking at a Polish presidency in the European Union. So what actually does it mean for Poland, and what sort of responsibility are we taking on ourselves?
Well, the basic responsibility of the presidency in the European Union Council, because that is the official name of it, is to preside over all the meetings which the Council would have in the forthcoming half of a year. And that means that we Poles, we Polish officials will preside over all the meetings also of the preparatory committees and the working groups, which is a humongous task. We have to also add, to clarify a little bit, the structure of the presidency, because we are talking about the Polish presidency as if it were just one in a row, which is not true. The present structure of the presidency is that, Poland has only a third of the whole presidency, which lasts for more than half a year. It's 3 times half a year, and we are having it together with Denmark, which is after us, and Cyprus, which is after Denmark. So it's the whole presidency, and we have just one third. Yeah.
But so, of course, we have to cooperate with those two, let's say, twin countries in this presidency. But also, just coming back to the idea of it, it's sort of to show that the power in European Union is not only in Brussels, but is divided, and the responsibility is divided to all the member states, and that they take or want to take an active part in it. Am I correct?
Well, that is not to show off anything, but rather it reveals the natural structure of the European Union. It's a gross mistake to think of the European Union as something which is decided upon by the Brussels. It's decided in Brussels. And when I say it's decided in Brussels, it means that, the European Union is a common organization for all the European member states. And they make decisions always. They have made decisions together. The bureaucracy of the European Union, conceived as an international organization, is only to help them. And when you look at the structure of the decision-making, it's normally such that the European Commission, which is, of course, selected by the member states, sets the agenda or makes initiatives for the decisions. But those initiatives are not from the blue sky, but rather they are a result of a discussion with the member states. And then once that initiative has been made, the member state sort of polish it. They discuss it. They find the common ground. And somebody will have to simply lead them. Somebody will have to preside over all those meetings which are leading to the final conclusion, which is like the legal act or maybe the political decision. And, that is the role of a president. presidency that leads us to also to the definition of the presidency and its power. Because people tend to think that somebody who presides over the European Union, let's say, will have a tremendous power over what the European Union would do during the presidency, which is not true at all, because when you preside over those meetings, you will have to be impartial. You should not promote excessively, let's say, your national interests. And may I say that it's never a good idea to push too much your interest, your national interest over the other member states, because they will not understand it. The more effective strategy always, regardless of whether we'll have the presidency or will be just the member state which is participating in meetings presided by somebody else, is to find the allies for our ideas, is to promote also something which would be of interest to other member states. And the difference between the periods where we do not have the presidency in the European Union versus the periods where we have the presidency of the European Union is such that, when we do not have the presidency, we will be able to do more. And once we are the presidency, we will have to a little bit play lower with regard to pushing up our national interests, because we are expected to Poland or any member state will have the presidency, is expected to find a common ground, to be an honest broker of national interests of the member states.
Wonderful. So in this moment, it's actually the other way around, and people usually think or image or make an image of it. So in this case, we are, let's say, the teacher in the class who has to put every voices, which of course there are a lot of voices because there are not a lot of national interest within European Union. So to put them together and have the final effort and the final outcome.
That is a very good metaphor.
So let's looking at this metaphor. And is Poland ready to take this huge role after all?
Well, absolutely. We are not new to this role. We had the presidency, our first and the only one before. Presidency was in 2011, I think, as far as I remember, and that had been a success. We have gathered experience, and I think that with that pretty long tenure in the European Union, we are quite able to, first of all, understand the role and then to perform the role according to the standards.
This is the very important task, but also prestige for Poland, of course. Does it mean, let's say, what does it mean practically? Are all the leaders of the European Union going to gather here in Warsaw?
Well, not necessarily in Warsaw. We are talking about numerous meetings at various levels. It's not only about the leaders of the countries, but rather about all the meetings of those preparatory committees, working groups, which gather, instead of leaders, they gather people from national bureaucracies, from the national governments, from also, national, sub-central level of governments, if that is the case. And that gives you an opportunity to show your muscles when it comes to the organizational skills, to the quality of your bureaucracy. I'm using the word bureaucracy in a rather neutral way. And also to, that is maybe the most important part of it, to show the amenities of the entire country, which which means that, meetings will be held not only in Warsaw, but also in Łódź, in Poznań, Gdańsk, Krakow, lots of places which are smaller in size, but, which might be interesting for the representatives of our member states.
And showing the riches of Poland, because normally the only European bureau or office, European agency, which is in Poland, is Frontex. So protecting the borders of European Union. So, but this time, everyone who haven't been before or haven't seen or haven't experienced will have this opportunity, see what we have here, and also see our parts, and probably see the transportation as well, because this seems like a important part of it, to make an easy and accessible transportation to all of those places.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that is maybe a very important part of the experience, especially for those people from other member states who had been in Poland during the first presidency, where the network was still in the process of development, and now the network is just new, modern, accessible, convenient, name it.
Clean, I would add, and the other one, but absolutely true. And even when we look with comparison to other countries right now, Polish roads or railways, and the quality of trains, even food there, is very high, and I'm extremely proud of it, and it's truly convenient to take it.
Yes, exactly. But what really matters is the agenda, of course. These are the part of the experience, quite important. And, the opportunity to show your amenities to all the important people is equally important. Also to the citizens, to show your country to the citizens of other member states, because, the media will be here, is a good opportunity to promote your tourism. But on the other hand, the most important part is the really hard work.
This is Common Sense Generation. If you like this channel, please subscribe, share, and comment. Your voice really matters. So let's talk about the agenda. What is the Polish proposition for the presidency, on 1/3 of presidency?
Yes. Well, the word which is like the umbrella concept for everything which is there is security, safety. It's about a reflection of the present situation we are experiencing, and that is about I think the reflection of the COVID-19 pandemic, and also about the ongoing experience, which is the
war in Ukraine.
The war in Ukraine,
which
yes.
we, as a member state, but also the border of the European Union, are experiencing all the time, as well as when it comes to refugees and the protection of the border. But also everything what's going on in Belarus, which is unfortunately orchestrated by Russia.
Yes, exactly. But we'll have to do our utmost in order to for the member states and their societies, their citizens, to understand that it's not only about the border. It's, our common experience. When you, in Portugal and in Spain, I think that it is not related to you in a, straightforward sense. Well, you are grossly mistaken, because, if you pay the higher prices for energy, if you experience some shortages of healthcare and, the resources there, that's the reflection of the war in Ukraine and the reflection of a very strong impact it has on the European economy.
The European economy, the society as well, because when it comes, of course, to refugees, which Poland is feeling the amount of them very strongly, but they also support our economy and they melt into the society. But just the fact that 4 million people needed to go outside of Ukraine and even more all the time, and we see all of the horrors, but we see also the fact that that Ukraine, even when it is on the border of the European Union, it is just one part in the game, because after all, what's going on right now in Georgia, and the fact that they actually broke the talks with becoming the member of the European Union against the will of the society, it seems like to be just another phase of the same agenda, the Russian agenda of exposing their power more and more in the region.
Well, that's exactly the case, actually. But I would like to shed light on the some other aspects of it, because it shows that for such societies like the Ukrainian society or the Georgian society, the European Union is a very important point of reference. It's a civilization model which is very attractive for those people, and for good reasons. We as the Poles can only, reconfirm what they dream of or what they think of the European Union. The European Union is the right organization to be in. It promotes your interest. It helps promoting your interest in the international sphere. It helps your economy. It makes you a part of an important and pretty successful, relatively successful, structure or scheme. Yeah.
Just even the fact that there are monitors of, for example, Frontex on those borders, that there are certain standards of even treating people and refugees at those checkpoints of their altogether European border, is the whole agenda of the whole union, which is trying to as well protect the interests of the member states, and as the main thing, but also with humanity treat refugees and take, even when sending them back home, treating them with respect to their rights, which is not an obvious thing looking at how much human rights were broken even during the pandemic, during the war right now, which is for obvious reasons. We hear all the horrors about what happened there in Ukraine. So we can also feel the threat that what we have here in Europe and in the European Union is not an obvious thing. It's something which we have to work very hard to maintain.
Well, absolutely. That is the truth about the whole situation. We are experiencing a dramatic attack on our borders with the use of the refugees, and in the same time, the refugees or those people who are at the border trying to get into the European Union have fundamental rights, and the fundamental rights are the part of the European or EU DNA. And we should not lose it. In other words, you are hitting the nail in the hook when you say that it's one of the challenges, and it's even a part of the Polish presidency agenda, which is most likely to be taken over by the forthcoming Danish and Cypriot presidency. For an obvious reason. That is a very important thing, where the member states will have to somehow counterweight to interests. One would be the protection of the territorial integrity and also economic integrity, which is quite a part of a game, and in the same time respecting the fundamental rights rights because they are not, for your information, they are not only streaming from the EU law, but also from, outer international law, like the European Convention of Human Rights, which is not the part, or not exactly the EU law, which and other pieces of fundamental rights, which are originated from the United Nations, for example.
Yes, those are let's say two laws coming together. One is the fundamental rights of the law which comes from European Union, and the other one is the international law which talks about more human rights, but it's the same thing named the other way.
Yeah, and it by actually leads to another very important question which will have to be addressed, or which will have to be subject to an ongoing reflection, actually, and to some decisions. That is the uneven spread of, the refugees over the member states. When we talk about the Ukrainians, most of the Ukrainians ended up in Germany. The second country is Poland, and these are like millions. And in the same time, when we talk about Ukrainians, it is estimated that only not more than 40,000 Ukrainians ended up in Hungary, regardless of the fact that the Hungarians or the Hungarian government tries to sell, another truth, that is that they have accepted lots of Ukrainians, but they calculate or take into account all the border crossings, and that's not okay. In the same time, we have a very important pressure from the Northern Africa, which is also taken by not all the member states, but rather Greece and
Cyprus.
and Italy and Cyprus, and we'll have together in the European Union to cooperate in order to make it more manageable, easier, and to relieve of this pressure, because it is also, it has, I would say, undue, unnecessary, undesired pressure on the political agenda.
So safety as the main agenda, safety internal and external. We talked about external a lot. The internal pressure is what we have, and safety, what we have to experience during the COVID pandemic, and the fact that we as Europe realize that we, especially when it comes to health, and we are dependent on the outsourcing. So we needed, most of our medicine come from China, that we realized we are not manufacturing much of it. And at the phases of pandemic, which was of course not seen by, I would say, anyone, as again, for example, a lot of geopolitical strategics said no really outscale war will ever happen anymore in Europe. Again, wrong. So the history is definitely not over. Fukuyama was wrong. There are new challenges. The world is changing, and we have to find ourselves in it. There is no other way. We see that we have to take care of our own healthcare, but our all safety, internal safety, So do you know, or it is already known, how we want to address it?
Well, yes, in general terms, of course, because the program of the Polish presidency is using headlines. It's not something unusual, but they talk about, they tell you about they intend to push through the medicine production agenda, munition production agendas as well, to increase independence from the outer sources, resources, and also to increase resilience of the European society and the European industry from those other sources. There are, however, tricky points in it, because if you consider those ambitious plans and you see the opportunities, Europe has some, I would say, inherent shortcomings. That is when we talk about some, rare minerals. They are not abundant in Europe, or they sometimes are not produced here or extracted here. So, the program actually will most likely follow in a different, I would say, pipeline that would be rather not about expanding your abilities, expanding your capacity with regard to those things, but rather imposing some strict agenda on saving them, on recycling, on more reliable management of capacities. And in my opinion, that would work out pretty well, but it would not achieve 100% independence.
This is also, I think, not what it's truly expected. But the longer we are, there are, for example, in this external safety, there is always this 3-4 days before allies can actually come to aid for you. But those 3-4 days are indeed very crucial when it comes to any attack, external or internal crisis.
With regard to this issue, the European Union had contributed, or has contributed so far, pretty, I would say, in a pretty worthwhile way. When you consider, for example, the issue of storage of strategic fuels and so on, very often it is sold at the national level that it had been a splendid idea of the present or the past government. Nothing like that. It was the idea which was figured out and imposed on the member states working together, of course, or in Brussels. So that they decided at some point that we have to be resilient. We'll have to have those, maybe not even 3 days, but more. It's a rather lengthy period of time will be able to sustain any pressure because, the European Union law had decided about this obligation. And I think that, the member states will have more and more of those obligations. They will be able to, produce more and more strategic resources. They will have to be able to more and more to cooperate or react together to any situations where the safety will be compromised, and so on and so on. That then Poland will contribute in a pretty worthwhile way to the processes which will be ongoing in the future, which is quite an important thing, because when you compare the Polish presidency as it is most likely to develop with the already ending Hungarian presidency, which is, in my opinion, a disaster from this point of view, you will have it. You will have a very inactive and very uncontributing presidency, which tries at the end of it to sell, the Ukrainian-Russian peace initiative as its, most important success, versus the Polish presidency, which is very likely to trigger processes which will be ongoing and which would contribute in a very significant way to the safety of the entire continent.
Well, this is something extremely important, what you said. So we sort of can learn what of the shortcomings and mistakes of the past presidency, of right now ongoing presidency, what Hungary did or did not, and we are planning to do things differently.
Well, of course, because not because it's the very nature of presidencies, but because the Hungarian presidency from the very outset was or has been so failing of the expectations and so much failing of the rules. When you remember or recall the, like the first days of the presidencies, well, of the Hungarian presidency, well, Prime Minister Orban, decided seemingly in a declarative way on behalf of the European Union to go to Beijing and some other places with some initiatives which had not been approved by the member states, and that contributed to distrust, to undermining that very core of the presidency, which we have already discussed, and that is that you'll have to be like an honest broker of all the interests of the member states. Well, it had failed to meet those expectations, and as a result, it was like dragging on and on and on till the day the very end of this year.
The last big topic, which I'd like to ask you about, is of course the green transition and the green policy, which has been adopted by European Union, but which is of course a challenge to all member states because it's very it costs a lot of money. And how Poland is going to address this topic.
Well, Poland waves sort of a flag, but not in a very dramatic way. It says, we need that Green Deal, sort of. It contributes well to our health, to our safety as well, to the attractiveness of our production globally, but we will have to a little bit soften it. So, for example, when we talk about the agriculture and the farmers, it is pretty clearly stated in the program of the Polish presidency that the Polish presidency will try to promote solutions which would be based on the on the will of the farmers, and which would not impose, not mandate, not be mandatory for the farmers, which is a good solution because, this green agenda had been sold very badly by the European Union in the past. It's not that it is bad, actually. And, any responsible politician will have to, I would say, understand it and a little bit be able to better promote that idea. Also to the farmers. Why? And may I explain to you that point? Well, anybody in the world can produce food. The matter is to produce good quality food, and the matter is to be able to compete. And when you consider the European food, it is produced here. We are not in a tropical, area. So we have our constraints. The cost of production might be higher than elsewhere in the world. Then the second element is that here people, also in Poland, expect higher than the world average salaries, wages, remuneration for their work. So these are very important constraints. And then your products, food products, also will have to compete on the international markets. How? Well, with the quality. That's the most important element. You will have to convince all the member states in the world that, well, maybe your food is not that cheap. It cannot be even produced that cheaply as elsewhere in the world. But, well, you are offering here on a table like the top of the top. And even if that is grain, if it is potato, and even if it's relatively cheap, well, it'll have to be the best. This is one of the very important, well, I would say, elements of the strategy for Europe, where it has lots of resources, also intellectual resources, but monetary resources to invest in the high-quality production, and it will be able to credibly convince the world that, well, the European products are innovative, good, and even if this is food, it's produced in a very responsible, liable, and, well, innovative way.
And it's also part of what we talked before, the internal safety. Because if we produce our own food, we are secure, we are independent, we also don't pay for transportation of them, at least in the continent, but it is much cheaper than shipping grain from China, or better to ship our apples to China. What do we do? Or milk products, which are at this, for example, Chinese people don't trust their government when it comes to milk, baby's milk, because of this huge scandal which happened once, and they rather buy Polish milk. Mm-hmm. So at least Europe has this quality mark on food, which is, I think, at least in my opinion, important to still have and protect.
Right. And when it comes to food, the situation is just clear and the idea is clear. We are, well, in more of a trouble when it comes to industrial goods because, well, many European companies which had been not so far ago, well, considered champions, world champions, well, are not considered champions anymore because of the lack of innovation, the lack of, well, those technological solutions which would be well appreciated as well in the world, and that requires investment. And well, here the Polish presidency says, well, let's trigger those opportunities, let's trigger those abilities, let's use our wealth, intellectual, monetary, in order to, well, get something new out of what we have.
And we put a point here. So just to sum it up, the Polish presidency is coming. The main topic or the main agenda is security, external security and internal security. Denmark is taking over, and then Cyprus. Both of those countries know the meaning of the border security, so it should be our common agenda. We'll see what it was the result of it, what it comes out, but definitely one of the main results is the fact that we as a Poland can, first of all, lead some sort of neutral ground, and secondly, from the logistic point, show to the member states what we have the best. Am I correct?
Oh, yes, you are so correct.
Professor, thank you very much for talking to us and coming. This was Professor Nowak-Far in our podcast, Common Sense Generation. Thank you very much for watching us. And I also thank Polish National Foundation for making this video podcast possible. Stay tuned. This is Common Sense Generation.